Right, welcome to another biology lab homework video, and this one here we're going to continue our exploration into microscopes. Now when you use microscopes, of course, as you remember, a bit of active revision, that they magnify an image larger than their actual size. And remember we said that there were different types of microscopes, and there were light microscopes and electron microscopes. And no matter what type of microscope you use, you want to see a clear image. You guys are so used to using phones and cameras now, and you talk the language of like, oh, how many megapixels is that? Oh, that's only a 10 megapixel camera. I've got a 24 megapixel camera. Well, what does that mean? Well, you know that it means the higher the megapixel count, the clearer the image. And so that just means that on the sensor, there's lots of small little sections there that can pick up more light. And if it picks up more light, it gives you more information and therefore a clearer image. Well, we want to do that with microscopes, right? We want to say we want to have a large image, but we want to have a clear image. And so we know microscopes have magnification, the ability to make things large. And so here I have my little red squirrel that I took a picture of here when I was lucky enough before pre-COVID to go overseas. And so with my image here, I've just enlarged that. Right, and if you enlarge it, look what happens to the clarity of the image, right? Let's just enlarge it here. And you can see that around the fur it's all blurry. Right, around this edge here it's all blurry. Okay, so that's where we've magnified the image, but we haven't made it clearer. So that is resolution problem. Okay, what is resolution? Resolution is the ability to distinguish between 2 points. In other words, make it clearer. It's not a blurry object, it's 2 points, right? So let me just show that to you. If I was to draw 2 points here, you'd go, oh yeah, there's space between those 2 points, right? Let me zoom in as much as I possibly can, okay? And I'm going to draw 2 dots, and the second dot I'm going to just draw just near it. You know they're separate, right? Because you can see that right there. But if I zoom back out now, then those 2 dots look like they're touching. So our eyes cannot resolve those 2 dots as separate entities, as separate dots. They look like it's one dot, okay? But of course, because you saw me draw it, you know that they're 2 separate dots. So resolution is the ability to distinguish between 2 dots. And so what I've done here is the image I had in the last slide, but now I've got a better quality image here. I've got more megapixels of information, so it should be more resolution. Let's compare the two. So here's the original. You can see it's pretty blocky around there. Look how big the pixels are. Look, there's one pixel, there's another pixel. So it's very, very pixelated. But if I look over here, okay, we can it's not crystal clear, but you can see that there's more detail there. I can see more hair, right, between the two. Okay, and so this image on the right is clearer. It's got greater detail, it's got more resolution. And so that's what we want with our microscopes. We want our microscopes to look into small objects and make them bigger, but we want to see clearer images. We want to see the difference between 2 points, not just bigger blobs. Okay? Alright, so the last slide here, I'm going to be looking at orders of magnitude, they call it, but we need to understand that microscopes can see very small, and we're going to be coming across some new way in which to measure length. You guys are very familiar with millimeters, right? So you know that that 1 meter is the same as 100 centimeters, which is the same as, or I should say, and 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. All right, so 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, but altogether 1 meter would therefore be 1,000 millimeters, right? And so you're used to knowing that. And so we can see here from our diagram, if we use a magnifying lens, that can only sort of see around about, just slightly around about 1 millimeter and the size of cells. If we want to go smaller than that, we enter another unit which is called micrometers. Now micrometer is written like this. It's got like a little tail and then up like that. Right, it's called mu, right? That's mu. And we have 1 millimeter is equal to 1,000 micrometers. So if you get 1 millimeter and split it up into 1,000 bits, that's a lot. That's pretty small. You can't see that with your eye. Okay, and so another way of writing 1,000 micrometers, right? Because we like to relate things to a meter, right? So if I was to go 1 meter is equal to, if I get my laser now, if I go 1, 2, 3, All right, if I move the decimal point, I should say decimal points here behind the 1. If I move it to 2 places, then I get 10 to the minus 2, right? So centimeters is the same as saying 10 to the minus 2 meters. So if I was to do millimeters, it's 10 to the minus 3, which is 0.001 of a meter, right? So this is called scientific notation. So we'll do a separate video on that, but there's different ways you can write it. So we've got micrometers here, and then look at this. Bacterium is 1 micrometer, but if we get smaller than 1 micrometer, we get into something called nanometers. So 1 micrometer is equal to 1,000 nanometers. So we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? And so nano is 10 to the minus 9 meters. And then we go down even smaller to DNA, 1 nanometer. And if we go smaller than 1 nanometer, then we get into another unit. But look at this, 0.1 of a nanometer, we're getting down to atoms and water, right? So draw this diagram down. I want you to get the idea of what micro is, what nano is, that one micrometer is equal to 1,000 nanometers. I didn't write that one for you. That 1 micrometer is equal to 1,000 nanometers. Okay? Because we'll come back to those concepts later in another video where we learn how to convert between the values. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one where we start delving into the parts of the microscope. See you then.